The world is watching closely as tensions between the United States and Iran continue to escalate, raising fears that the Middle East could soon face a dangerous new chapter of conflict. Military movements, political statements, and retaliatory threats are intensifying, creating a volatile situation that could have global consequences. In recent weeks, the standoff between Washington and Tehran has moved from diplomatic confrontation to military pressure. Officials in Washington have warned that Iran's growing influence in the region and its expanding missile capabilities pose a serious threat to American allies and military forces. At the same time, Iranian leaders insist that the United States is attempting to destabilize the region and undermine Iran's sovereignty. The crisis began escalating after reports of military strikes targeting facilities believed to be connected to Iran's defense network. According to regional analysts, several strategic sites linked to Iran's missile and military infrastructure were hit in operations believed to involve the United States and its allies. The strikes immediately triggered strong reactions from Iranian officials, who promised that any attack on Iranian territory would not go unanswered. Iran's response came quickly. Military officials in Tehran warned that American bases across the Middle East could become targets if tensions continue to rise. Iran maintains the capability to launch ballistic missiles and drones that could reach several strategic locations in the region. This warning has significantly increased concerns among security experts, who fear that a single miscalculation could spark a wider war. The United States has responded by strengthening its military presence across the Middle East. Warships, fighter jets, and additional defensive systems have reportedly been deployed to key strategic areas in order to protect American forces and allies. U.S. officials say these moves are defensive and intended to prevent further escalation. However, critics argue that increased military deployments may actually raise the risk of confrontation. At the center of this growing crisis is the strategic importance of the Persian Gulf. This region is one of the most critical energy corridors in the world, with millions of barrels of oil passing through it every day. If conflict disrupts shipping routes or energy infrastructure, global markets could experience serious economic shocks. Oil prices have already begun reacting to the rising tensions, reflecting fears that instability could spread. Political reactions inside the United States are also intensifying. Lawmakers and policy experts are debating how Washington should respond to Iran's actions. Some leaders believe strong military pressure is necessary to deter Iran from expanding its influence across the Middle East. Others argue that diplomacy and negotiations remain the only realistic path to avoiding a devastating conflict. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has also weighed in on the growing crisis, calling for strong leadership and warning that Iran should never be allowed to threaten American interests or allies. Meanwhile, current administration officials emphasize that while the United States will defend its forces, it does not seek a full-scale war with Iran. Iranian leaders, however, have taken a defiant stance. Senior officials in Tehran say their country is fully prepared to defend itself against any attack. They argue that foreign military presence in the region is the real cause of instability, and insist that Iran will respond forcefully to any aggression. The situation has created a climate of uncertainty across the Middle East. Neighboring countries are watching the crisis closely, aware that any large-scale conflict between the United States and Iran could quickly spread across borders. Several regional governments have called for restraint and urged both sides to return to diplomatic dialogue before the situation spirals out of control. International organizations have also expressed concern. Global leaders warn that a direct military confrontation between the United States and Iran could destabilize not only the Middle East, but the entire global economy. Energy markets, international trade routes, and geopolitical alliances could all be affected if the crisis escalates further. Military experts say that one of the most dangerous aspects of the current situation is the possibility of indirect conflict. Iran maintains relationships with several armed groups across the region, and analysts believe those groups could become involved if tensions continue to rise. Such developments could transform a bilateral standoff into a much larger regional war. Despite the rising tensions, some diplomatic channels remain open. Behind the scenes, international mediators are reportedly attempting to reduce tensions between Washington and Tehran. However, progress has been slow, and both sides remain deeply suspicious of each other's intentions. For now, the world remains on edge as the confrontation between the United States and Iran continues to unfold. Every new development, whether military, political, or diplomatic, has the potential to reshape the future of the Middle East. The coming weeks may prove critical in determining whether this crisis moves toward negotiation or slides closer to a dangerous military conflict. As global attention remains fixed on this rapidly developing situation, one question continues to dominate international headlines. Will diplomacy prevail, or is the world witnessing the early stages of another major Middle East war?